When you think of the word budget, rarely does it fit in between the words great and smartphone. Well, you may not be super familiar with them, but Alcatel OneTouch has a new budget offering that's not only a smartphone, but overall is pretty great. Meet the Idol 3. The Idol 3 features a 5.5-inch IPS 1080p display, dual front-facing stereo speakers, and a 13-megapixel rear camera. Inside, it's packing an octa-core Snapdragon 615 processor, 2GB of RAM, 16GB of internal storage, which is expandable up to 128GB, and a 2910 mAh battery. I was a bit skeptical of the specs at first, but with Android 5.0.2 Lollipop and a very minimal skin, it's pretty smooth overall. The display on the Idol 3 is a winner. It kicks the shit out of any smartphone in its price range, and I'd even go as far as saying that it one-ups the OnePlus One. It's very bright, colorful, and looks fantastic. There aren't many other ways to describe it. The Idol 3 is made from plastic, but there's nothing cheap about its build. The brush finish on the backside is a nice addition, but unfortunately the battery is sealed in. There's a metallic trim along the outside edges, which is prone to scratch and chip over time, but I haven't had any issues so far. On the front side, we have JBL powered stereo speakers. I was honestly impressed when I first heard them. They are loud and clear. Not quite on the level of HTC's boom sound speakers, but as close as you'll get in this price range. The display is covered by Dragon Trail glass, and I've never heard of it before now, but it's said to carry similar scratch resistant capabilities when compared to Gorilla Glass. And I've been using this actively for a couple of weeks now without a screen protector on, and it seems to be holding up great so far. The lock button and volume buttons are not in an ideal location. I suppose the volume button location can be forgiven since it sits right below your thumb, but the lock button, oh, the lock button. This is one of the weirdest places I have ever seen a lock button on a smartphone. It's pretty hard to reach, but thankfully, the software integrates a double tap of the screen to wake or sleep the device. Either way, I'm not a fan of the lock button placement whatsoever. The Idol 3 is running Lollipop with a very light skin over the top. In fact, the only thing that's not stock Android here are the icons used for the default apps. Everything else is basically pure Lollipop, which I can definitely appreciate. I ran into a few occasions where the device lagged a bit. Usually it only happened when I had a lot of apps running at once. Certainly not a deal breaker, especially when you consider the price, but it's a noticeable lag. But again, it only happened a few times, and it definitely held up better than a Moto G or E would under the same situations. A very unique feature with the Idol 3's software and hardware is the fact that it's fully reversible. With dual front-facing speakers and microphones on each end, the Idol 3 can be used in any direction. You can literally answer calls with the phone upside down. Not that you'd really want to, but the feature is there, take it or leave it. If you're not into that kind of thing, it can be disabled via the software. It's a neat marketing point, but nothing that ever saved the day during my use. Camera performance has been a mixed bag. I've seen this camera take a great picture, and then the next shot was a bit blown out. It seems that the Idol 3's camera doesn't handle exposure in the best way all the time. There were times where the picture came out as expected, but I feel like a lot of this can be fixed via software. Pictures certainly have the detail needed from the 13-megapixel Sony sensor, and close-ups came out crisp. You can pull off some pretty good pictures in daylight, but low-light performance is where this camera struggles. It's not the best, but it's far from the worst. You just lose a little bit of detail in low light, and I did have some trouble with the camera focusing, but overall, I was far more impressed with this camera than other smartphones with dual front-facing speakers released this year. There's also an 8-megapixel front-facing camera that will get the job done if you ever need to snap a few selfies. When it comes to battery life, I've been pretty impressed with the Idol 3. Using the phone for a full day at about 75% brightness, I was able to get around 4 hours of screen on time. Like the camera, it's not the best, but far from the worst. So what's the verdict here? Well, let's be honest, like many other smartphones on this channel, the Idol 3 was sent to me free of charge for review. That being said, this is one of the few phones that I'd buy at full retail without hesitation. It's only $250, and for what you get, the numbers just don't add up with the Idol 3. In a good way, of course. The display is great, battery life is mostly on point, and the camera does a decent job. The hardware and software experience is comparable to other high-end flagships as well. It's a very impressive phone, and like I said, at $250 unlocked and off contract, the Idol 3 is worth the money, even if that means just giving it a shot. So if you're in the market for a budget smartphone in 2015, this has to be on your list of one of the best options. Sure, there are compromises that come with its price tag, but this was really my first experience with an Alcatel OneTouch smartphone, and it has left a lasting impression. So there you go, this has been my review of the Idol 3. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to hit that thumbs up button. Also subscribe for more reviews like this in the future. Thanks again for watching, everyone. This is Dom, and I'll catch you in the next video.